all the way my Savior leads me. Cheers each winding path I tread, gives me grace for every trial, feeds me with the living bread.
Good morning, everybody. Chester ARP Church Devotional Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Clint Davis. I'm your host, pastor of Chester ARP Church, and we do this podcast 5 times a week is our goal. We read the Bible, we discuss it. We've been reading through 2 Samuel together, and we have come to 2 Samuel chapter 13. Chapter 12 of 2 Samuel is when King David's son dies. The end of chapter 12 is King David and Bathsheba's son dies. Their second child is born, and his name is Solomon. Solomon is one of the later children of David's wives, or David's life, that he comes about later on in the life. The first son is a man named Amnon, and Amnon is a young man who has a tremendous affection for his sister Tamar. Tamar is the last of David's children mentioned, the only girl mentioned in the story of 1 Samuel. In the story of 2 Samuel, in the story of David's life. Did David have other female children? Perhaps, but we only know of the 18 males and the one female, the one daughter. Amnon had this affection for Tamar, and Amnon wanted to have a sexual relationship with Tamar. It's dysfunction. Chapter 13 through chapter 18 in 2 Samuel is, if we could just title it, it is a section of dysfunction. It's let the dysfunction begin. One of the things you note if you've been following along, or certainly if you know the story of David, you know that one of the punishments that comes to David, one of the disciplines that David has to endure as a result of his sin with Bathsheba, is that not only is his first son going to die, the first offspring of his relationship with Bathsheba, but also the sword, God says, will never depart from Israel and from your home. And one of the things that we see is actually chapters 13 through 18 of 2 Samuel, you don't see a lot of division happening within the nation of Israel. That does not have to do with division in David's family. So Amnon has this desire, this sexual desire for his sister. He concocts this plan to get her to come. He rapes her. There's no way around it. That's what he does. He rapes her in chapter 13 of 2 Samuel. He forces her out. He has this tremendous hatred for her. He forces her out. She goes off and mourns and lives, we're told, as a desolate woman in her brother Absalom's house. And so Absalom is the guy who kind of takes the leadership in defense of Tamar, but also brings Tamar in. Most likely she and Absalom, and I may be trying to work off memory here, so memory doesn't serve me correctly all the time, but I believe that Absalom and Tamar are actual brother and sister. So they came from the same father and the same mother. David had multiple wives. And so Absalom kills Absalom at this point. At the conclusion of the episode between Amnon and Tamar, Absalom refuses to speak to Amnon because he violated his sister. Absalom, after 2 years, finds the opportunity to kill his brother Amnon. And he does it while they were shearing their sheep, and Absalom kills his brother. This brings great pain, as you can imagine, to King David, and it brings great pain and dysfunction to the family, a lot of division in the family. But in order to avenge his sister Tamar, Absalom, after 2 years, kills his brother Amnon. And verse 34 of 2 Samuel chapter 13 is where we're going to pick this story up today, just for our Bible reading. But Absalom fled from the king, fled from the king's family, fled from his brothers and his sister. Absalom fled, and the young man who kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, many people were coming from the road behind him by the side of the mountain. And Jonadab said to the king, Behold, the king's sons have come, as your servant said, so it has come about. And as soon as he had finished speaking, behold, the king's sons came and lifted up their voice and wept, and the king also and all his servants wept bitterly. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son day after day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And the spirit of the king longed to go out to Absalom because he was comforted about Amnon since he was dead. David is mourning the loss of his son Amnon, certainly mourning the loss of the purity and the virginity of his daughter Tamar. He is mourning now the loss of his son Absalom, who has killed his brother, David's son Amnon. And now Absalom has fled, and now David and all the king's men in the family are mourning over the loss of Absalom, because now Absalom has gone away. Now, we know, if you're a parent listening to this, you know that you can be tremendously disappointed in your children, very frustrated with your children. But if you have hearts especially hearts that are pursuing the Lord, soft hearts that are towards your family, you know that nothing they do will actually make you stop loving them, and you would always want to restore and redeem and forgive as best as you can. And so David wants to have this relationship with Absalom. He wants to restore the family. We're told, actually, at the conclusion of chapter 13, that David was comforted at the loss of Amnon, which is something very similar we saw in the end of chapter 12, because David realized at that point with his son, with Bathsheba, I can't bring him back to me. I'll go to be with him one day in the place of the dead. And so David also recognizes this with Amnon. I'll go to be with him one day. There's nothing I can do to bring Amnon back. I'm comforted by the fact that he is no longer here. And if Amnon caused this dysfunction, right, there's a sense in which maybe for 2 years the family was at odds, the family was at agony. And I want to say this with great care and concern. There's a sense in which, if you think about this, there's a sense in which there may have been some peace in the family now. Absalom obviously brought more dysfunction by killing his brother, but Absalom's fled. Now everyone else is here. There's the other 18 children are here, and perhaps they're able to rally among each other, or other 17 children, they're able to rally among each other with their father, and perhaps now there's peace. And so what David wants is to bring Absalom back and restore him to the family, and that's his great desire. We'll note as we continue, Absalom does return to Jerusalem, but when Absalom returns to Jerusalem, things don't go very well, and ultimately he'll rebel against King David. And the lesson, I think, really from chapters 13 to 18 is we got to take care of what's taking place in our home life. David is told the sword will never depart from your home or from your house or from the Israel. As a whole right now, things are really good in Israel. They're pretty good in Israel. There's not a whole lot of division, except for that which is taking place in David's house, which will cause tremendous division in the kingdom. And so the lesson, I think, for us in a variety of ways, but certainly the lesson specifically for us in this lesson, in this story, is you got to take care of things at home, and what goes on at home will definitely impact and affect what goes on at work or anywhere else in the world around you. So I kind of rambled. I apologize for that, but this is a crazy part of the story, and I hope you guys are encouraged to take care of your business at home and to follow the Lord and to seek Him. You guys take care. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.
You carry me close to your heart and show